I'm going to show you how to draw the Taj Mahal.
You're going to love this project because the Taj Mahal is one of the most famous architectural structures in the world. It's located in Agra, India, and was built nearly 400 years ago by a heartbroken Islamic emperor named Shah Jahan. It was constructed as a mausoleum to house the remains of Shah Jahan's beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth. Over 20,000 people worked to build the Taj Mahal, and over 1,000 elephants were used to transport the building materials. Constructed from white marble, this monument is renowned for its intricate carvings, designs, calligraphy, and inlaid semi-precious stones. The Taj Mahal rests on 42 acres of meticulously curated gardens, pools, and walkways, and attracts millions of visitors every year. To start, I'm grabbing an 11 by 14 inch piece of multimedia paper. I'm leaving a few fingers width space at the bottom and then using my pencil to draw a horizon line right across my paper. A couple inches in from the edge of my paper, I'm making a vertical line that's about 2 finger widths high. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side of my paper. This will be the raised platform that the structure sits on. I'm now drawing a line straight across to complete the platform. This platform is called a plinth. In the center, I'm drawing a large rectangle that will be the main panel of the building's facade. Facade is the word we use to describe the front of a building. I'm adding a shorter, narrower rectangle, which will also be part of the facade. Then I'm adding a rectangle on the left that matches the one on the right. I'm adding a line right here that slightly slants downward to show that this part of the building is not facing us directly, but we're seeing it from an angle. This building is symmetrical, so I'm doing the same thing on the other side. I'm going to extend my vertical line here a bit so that I can start to draw the drum, which is another word for the base of the dome. Notice how my lines fan out just a bit on either side. Now adding another curved line on top. I'm drawing the onion dome on top. Notice how I'm using really soft pencil marks so that I can easily erase any mistakes I make. I'm adding a straight line here for an architectural feature called a kiosk. This dot marks where the top of it will be. Now drawing a rounded band right here, which is the base of the dome, and the dome on top. By the way, feel free to pause anytime you need more time to draw. These arches are going to be the open air windows of the kiosk. I'm doing the same thing on the other side. I'll go back and add my windows in a minute. Here, I'm adding some details to the top of my dome. This shape that I'm making here is called a decorative spire. I'm using these decorative spires to decorate every section of the top of the monument. I'm adding a rectangle inside this larger rectangle. The decorative space between these two rectangles is called the panel. I'm making a dot here for the top of an archway. Now making a slightly curved line on either side. The space between the panel and the archway is called the spandrel, and it's filled with super beautiful, intricate carvings. I'm very lightly marking off some lines that will divide these rectangles into sections. Notice how these lines run parallel to the line above it. So this line is horizontal, while this line is slightly slanting downwards. Don't worry about getting this right. If this seems hard, just make all your lines horizontal and it will still look great. Now I'm going back and adding a double line with darker pencil marks. Horizontal in the front and slightly slanting downwards on the outer panel. I'm making a dot here to mark the top of an alcove, now adding a line that curves down to the base, and doing my best to make a mirror image of this on the other side. I'm doing the same thing on top, a dot where I want the top of the alcove to be, and then this line moves straight up from the bottom and then curves over to where the pencil mark is. Now doing the same thing on the other side. I think you get the idea, so I'm going to go a bit faster over here. Don't worry if your alcoves are kind of lopsided or different shapes and sizes. Again, these imperfections will make your drawing look more spontaneous and fun. I'm going back and adding a decorative spire on top of this dome as well as on the dome across from it. I'm drawing scallops that will go all the way across the base of the dome and adding a double line that runs parallel to the bottom edge of the dome. I decided I wanted more room to draw the columns on the sides, so I'm erasing the edge of the plinth and making it longer. Then doing the same thing on the other side. I'm using my pencil to mark off how wide I want each minaret to be. I'm also adding a tiny dot on top to mark where I want the top of the minaret to be. These horizontal lines mark off where the open windows will be. Now adding my vertical lines. They curve slightly inward as they move up, but you can also make yours straight if you want. I'm using soft pencil marks to divide the minaret into sections. Then I'm drawing a narrow band where each section is. Now for a couple vertical lines and a dome with a decorative spire on top. And now doing the same thing on the other side, making it as symmetrical as I can. Be sure to add some windows at the top. On the ground below the main panel, I'm making a line that slants outwards towards the left. On the other side, I'm making a line that slants towards the right. Then I'm adding parallel slanting lines on either side. In order to show you how to draw some shrubs, I'm going to first show you how not to draw shrubs. My students have a tendency to draw them like this, slanting outwards. Don't do that. Instead, draw a straight vertical line that arches across the top, like this. See the difference? Now I'm going to add these shrubs to my drawing, starting with the shrubs that are the farthest away from me and therefore the smallest. The next set of shrubs I draw will be slightly bigger because they're closer, and the shrubs closest to me will be the tallest and largest. Now I can go back and erase the pencil marks I don't want. I'm making these soft lines to mark where I want the base of the other minarets to be. I'm making a dot on either side to mark off where I want the top of the minaret to be. These minarets are much farther away, so they appear to be a lot smaller. I'm adding my straight vertical lines, then adding a band, an open window section, and a dome on top. Now going back and adding a couple more bands that will break this minaret into 3 different sections. And I'm doing the same thing on the other side. Now that I'm done drawing, I'm going to outline my drawing with a Sharpie. I like to do this because it really makes my drawing pop out. Be sure to use an ultrafine Sharpie when you outline the really small detailed areas. Finish outlining your entire drawing, then go back and carefully erase all of your pencil marks. You can use crayons, colored pencils, or oil pastels to create a wax-resist watercolor painting. I'm going to start with oil pastels. Try testing your colors out on a scratch paper before you use them so that you can make sure you like them. To create more of a shadowy sunset effect, I'm adding blue color to the left side of the minarets. I like to blend the color with my finger, but this is optional. I'm also adding this blue to the plinth and inside the alcoves. And I'm continuing to add this blue to several more areas in my drawing. I want my color to be really soft, so I'm pressing very lightly as I color, blending a bit with my finger and adding some purple colored pencil on top. If you're using your finger to blend colors, be sure to carefully wipe your finger on a paper towel to remove the color before you try blending a new color. This will prevent your colors from getting dirty. I love adding colored pencils on top of my oil pastels. This can add a lot of nuance and depth. I'm coloring in the grass and blending it with my finger. Now adding some yellow and then green to the shrubs. I'm layering red and orange oil pastel and then blending the colors with my finger to make these garden beds look very bold. I like how this is looking, so I'm going to add some watercolor on top. When I'm using a pan like this, I like to wake up my watercolors by dipping my brush in water and then adding a bunch of water to each of the colors. Now that my colors are wet, I'm going to mix some purple and red in the lid. I want the colors to go on super light, so I'm using a 1-inch flat brush to add a thin layer of water on top of my drawing. You want your paper just a tiny bit wet. If there are any puddles of water, be sure to wipe them up. Because my paper is already wet, the color goes on very light. The more water you add to your watercolor, the lighter the color will be. I'm painting right on top of my building because I want the white building to reflect the sunset. Now I'm adding a little bit of yellow to the sky in a couple places. I'm adding some green to the grass and some red to the pool, which is reflecting the red in the sky. I'm going back and adding some darker red to different places on the building. A bit more red in the sky and a bit more red in the pool.
And now just adding a couple finishing touches.
If your colors get contaminated, be sure to take a tissue and carefully dab out the color that doesn't belong so your watercolors stay nice and clean. Before you put the watercolors away, be sure to get a tissue and carefully wipe out the lid so it's nice and clean for the next time you use it. Let me know how your Taj Mahal artwork turns out.
Be sure to check out this playlist for more super fun and easy step-by-step drawing tutorials.